You're listening to Lyfe and Shyt. I'm Daneyel Walker.
And I'm Tommy Walker.
Join us as we talk about our journey overcoming fears, boundaries, marriage, family, lifestyle, business, and whatever other shit you can think of.
We're individuals that came together to create one unit with one mind and one goal. What's up, girl?
What's up, baby?
You looking a little nice over there.
Oh, thank you, baby.
Thinking that sweater.
Oh, something. It's like, is it a sweater? I don't know. It's how these things kind of work, right? It's like a two-piece. Like, it's a
sweater
side
halter
on
top.
it keeps you warm, but kind of cute at the same time.
I like it.
Got to keep girls up, make sure they but, yeah.
I'm digging on all of that.
Well, thank you.
I got a question for you.
What's that, baby?
Do you agree with the quote, people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad bosses?
That's like a yes and a no, right? I have left jobs that were just bad because they weren't for me. So it was bad, not because the boss was bad, but because the job, it wasn't really a bad job. It just wasn't, it was a bad job to me.
It wasn't a good job for you. Yeah.
Yes, right? I haven't had the experience of having a really bad boss. Yeah, I'm very fortunate for that, but not that I can remember.
Really?
Yeah, not that I can remember in all my little jobs.
I mean, you've had a lot of jobs.
Yeah, I have. I've had quite a few.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We ain't gonna judge you on that.
Well, why would you judge me? I'm not the type that I would say.
Lost for words.
I would, yeah, right. Early on, I've worked. So I've had a job a lot of times in my life, like not different jobs, but like just a lot of different jobs. I guess if that makes sense.
Okay, so you had like 3 jobs at one time.
Yes, there's that.
Okay.
There is that. But then I also had a lot of jobs. But it wasn't like every year I changed a job.
What
It's not like that. It was like, so I would work like my very first job was Carl's Jr., right?
Okay.
And I was like, what, 19? Yeah, I was 19. That was my first like official job where I got a paycheck, right? And my boss there was a great boss, by the way. And I remember I actually got fired from Carl's Jr. because someone came through the drive-thru and they were very rude, and I was very rude back to them. And they wrote a long letter to my boss, and I'll never forget. She came in and was like, like, we really like you. We really, really do. But she wrote a letter. That was my first letter experience. I was 19.
That's back when letters mattered.
Yeah. They still do if they get to the right person, right?
No, that was Yelp reviews.
This is true.
Shit. Like back in those days, it wasn't no Yelp. So if you got a letter, it was like, oh, shit.
But I went from there right across the street to the rallies, and the lady at the rallies was like, "Oh, you worked at Carl's Jr. for a whole year?" I was like,
loyalty.
"Yeah." And she, what was I supposed to do? They fired me.
I'm going across the street.
Right across the street, directly. I mean, like looking at them in the drive-through, like, "Hey, y'all, I'm at rallies now." And I was at rallies for probably about a year as well. And then I went over into the hotel world. And from there, I stayed in jobs for probably about 5 years at a time. So, which I stayed at the Marriott for 5 years. And then I went to the Hilton. I was at the Hilton for about 6 years. So I had different jobs.
The Hilton in San Diego?
The Hilton San Diego.
Oh, so you didn't have a lot of jobs.
Yeah, well, yes. Well, and I worked for...
what about Kmart?
I was going to say, I worked for Kmart, too. I left that out. I was like...
And Robinson's May.
Yeah. So that was... So all of my jobs, they were grouped together as... so when in Kmart, that was retail. So from Kmart, I went to Robinson May, right? And in Kmart, I started off as just a cashier, and then I got promoted into a store, like a floor manager. And so, but anywho, that it's not about jobs. It's about bosses. So Kmart, I had a horrible boss. Well, he was actually a good boss, but he was bad to me. He was a good boss because he stayed on my ass. Bad to me because I didn't have anyone else staying on my ass before he got there.
So you judged him because nobody else held you accountable.
Yeah. No, I didn't judge him. I just didn't like him.
Oh, that sounds like our middle daughter.
Kids, yes. I was like, no one else is telling me this. He came in and was like, yeah, no. But I was going through a horrible time in my life. So, yeah.
That is hilarious. I have to agree with you. Yes and no. I had a bad boss, and when I was in my corporate, it was like my first real corporate job. And that bad boss was the only reason I made him bad is because there was no level of accountability. And like I didn't know how well I was doing. I didn't know how bad I was doing. Whenever I asked him a question, it seemed like he didn't know anything, and he was kind of flighty.
So he didn't hold you accountable, or he wasn't accountable for anything?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Both. Yeah. So it's like this is my first corporate gig, and I really want to do well, and I just need you to tell me whether or not I'm on the right path. Because if not, then shit. I don't. And I'm right out of the military too, where accountability is very high. And it's at the top of the scale. So yes, I agree with you. Yes and no. People do leave jobs for both reasons. Bad. It's a bad job and it's a bad boss. So now us as bosses, it's a different world.
Different
right?
story. Yeah,
right?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about bad bosses today. What's the definition of a bad boss?
That's a fucking good question. I don't know.
It's someone who micromanages. That's not a good boss.
Why not?
Because you're getting in, like, literally, like, walking with me instead of allowing me. It's going to stunt my creativity because I can't think without thinking that you're going to say something, or, you know what I mean? Like, so it doesn't give me any room to grow. It's everything that I'm basically not even a mini you, but I am you, And it's not right. Like, why would you hire someone that you have to micromanage?
So when it comes to that, I feel like it depends on the job. Because when you think about entry-level jobs, it's a lot of micromanaging because you're dealing with teenagers, basically. You know what I mean? So as a teenager's first job, think about a teenager's first job, daycare, fast food, whatever it is that you could be at least 16 years old to get hired. My first job was a summer job. I was 14 and a half, 15 years old, and I had to watch kids that was like third, fourth grade, daycare. Now, I was a kid that listened. You ain't have to come behind me. You tell me, do these 5 things. I made sure those 5 things got done. I look at the kids nowadays. I'll be like, gosh, you got to be like, I got to watch you. I told you what to do. Now I got to watch you. I got to make sure you did it. And then I got to tell you to do it again. So I guess it just depends on the job, right? So does that make me a bad boss because you're not doing what is expected of you?
A bad boss will avoid conflict at work.
That's a terrible boss.
That's bad, right?
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
You just avoid it. You don't never like approach that subject. Like someone's like messing with me. You're never gonna say anything about that. Like,
So now thinking about it, when you say what's a bad boss, a bad boss is someone who definitely does not hold you accountable and is always trying to get away from conflict, or someone who throws you under the bus as an employee.
Never gives you feedback.
Yeah.
Or takes your credit.
Takes your credit. Yeah, 1,000%. Like so I guess, so when I said my first, corporate boss was a bad boss, it inspired me. Because it made me feel like, well, shit, if this dude's a boss, I can be a boss.
That's great.
Because I would do this job way better than him.
Yeah, real talk.
And that's exactly what happened for me. Yeah. So, because 6 months later, I was on the job 6 months. I started training to be in management. In a year and a half, I was hired. I was in a boss status. Yeah. You remember that?
Yeah.
I played that song. I'm the biggest boss that you see thus far. Well, I was lit.
He was super lit.
Oh man, it was because it was different from military. Like, so in the military, you're a boss because of rank. And unfortunately, in the military, there's a lot of bad bosses because you have officers who are what I call school bosses. So you become a boss because you went to school, you got a degree, and the military says, all right, now you're in charge. You're an officer.
Oh, so that's why you said your rank is, what did you say? How is your rank?
You're a school boss.
No. Before that though, how do you get?
Oh, your rank is how you get status.
Yeah, because it feels like ranking is a big thing though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Exactly.
But you get your rank in school. Is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay. That makes sense.
So in the military, in the enlisted side of the military, you become a boss because of experience. You have to prove yourself.
And these are people who join willingly.
So
enlisted. I mean, I'm saying because everybody doesn't know military terms.
So when you're enlisted, you start at the bottom. You do all the shitty jobs. You gain experience. You take a test. You rank up.
Okay.
You basically keep doing that, rinse and repeat over and over again over so many years, and then your evaluations have to tie into that. But on the officer side, you go to school for 4 years. Now think about this, right? You're in college. You're fucking asshole in college. You're part of whatever fraternity. You do college type shit, and then all of a sudden you say, I want to go in the military, but I have a 4-year degree. Now all of a sudden you're a boss, and you're a boss over people that have been doing this shit for 10, 15. Yeah.
Oh, that's what all the good movies are about, right?
Exactly.
That makes for a great movie.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes
so all my military brothers and sisters is like, that's exactly right. Fuck those guys. But there's a rare few that come out and have some sense to them.
That's funny.
But they're bosses because of paper, right? So they got,
makes sense.
they proved themselves on paper, and now they're in charge. And that's just what it is.
What you call them, babe? School bosses?
School bosses, yeah.
I never heard that. That's hilarious. Another, I was going to say, what are the different, what would you consider there to be different kinds of bad bosses?
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, 1,000% is different kinds. So I think about the movie Horrible Bosses, right?
Ooh, yes.
Right. So that movie was hilarious.
That was.
So if you've never seen it, check it out. And the different references in Horrible Bosses, because it's friends that are just going through some shit,
and they all have horrible bosses, right? Like ironically,
and then they just go down a fucking rabbit hole of just bad shit.
I can't remember what all of their bosses were. One had a boss that was always coming on to him.
Yeah, the woman, which
that's
was
horrible.
right? It's like the woman keeps trying to come on to him. The reverse, reverse situation. And then you think about movies like Office Space, which we just watched. Like Office Space is an old movie, but we just watched it for whatever reason. Daneyel threw it on, and that shit was hilarious. Watching it all over again.
Hilarious.
So when you think of these old movies, right, as far as the different types of bad bosses, that's what comes to mind, right? And then sometimes I gotta ask myself, because now at what we do. And being in different industries, sometimes am I being a bad boss? And in today's society, right, when you have the big resignation, like these are terms that we're hearing on the media, the big resignation, people quitting. We got an email the other day, somebody quit, right, and they were supposed to be at work the next day. Yeah. And instead of giving a 2-week notice, like
but they loved us, the company, and everything else.
Loved everything about us. Loved everything about the company.
To respect the 2 weeks,
but not enough to give a 2-week notice to say, "Hey, I'm gonna give 2 weeks. I'll be gone."
Right.
But you love everything, so I have to check myself and say, "Well, what did I do wrong?" As a boss, and I didn't do anything wrong, right? But I got to look down the line as well. It's like if is my leaders being good leaders. Right, so there's a lot of different levels of being a bad boss.
Right, that is true. The different levels, yes. Different types, yes. There's the kind that are like puppets. They only do whatever the leader at the top tells them to do, right? So it's like they're not a boss on their own, but they're like a puppet. So they're just a follower, and that's it. My earrings are making noise, so I'm like, over my head. There's the King Kong bosses, the ones that are just like, it's them. They're superior to all things. They always like to show the line, like employees are here and I am here. It's like.
It's like Denzel. I'm King Kong. Pound your chest. I'm King Kong in this mother.
It's like the one that always makes it known that they're the boss. You know what I mean? It's like they're not down to earth at all. It's like when they walk in the room, all the employees kind of shrink down. You know what I mean? It's like they have that like, yeah, just like Denzel. You're right. And then the Superman bosses that act as if
Superman.
These are the heroes, right? Like the company would not make it if I didn't show up, right? Like
shit.
I'm that son of a such a.
So the company ain't shit without me.
Yeah.
Oh,
like it would even fail. Like it would fail. Like if I wasn't here, like you couldn't imagine what would happen, And then they leave and the company still thrives. It's like you may have been a good boss, but I set up these systems. I did this. I did that. Like there's always those, right? And then the last one is the one who is a taskmaster. They only think about the bottom line. They don't think about anything else but the bottom line by any means necessary, even if it's micromanaging or like staying on top of people, which, like I said, it'll kill their creativity. So you kind of like diminish your staff instead of allowing them to kind of grow.
So how do you know that you're a bad boss?
People have to tell you, I guess.
Evaluations. Right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Surveys.
yeah.
Right.
So if you're an employee and you have a bad boss, the only way that bad boss will know if he's a bad boss or she is a bad boss is if you actually say, hey, I don't like the way you treat me. Right.
Yeah. Real
Or
talk.
if you're a company like the corporation I was with where we had evaluations, right, or surveys where all of my employees would survey me as a boss. And then I would know how I was doing. And for those, I was a boss for 10 years in that corporation. And for 10 years, all of my surveys were pretty much like 98, 99. I think 95 was the lowest that I got. And that was in the early years, right? So it was like 95, and then you just kept going up, which is the way it should be, right? You learn, and then you keep growing.
Yeah.
So if you don't have surveys and you don't have conversations with your bosses, that person will never know that they're a bad boss. Like, it ain't like they just show up to work and say, I'm just going to ruin your fucking day.
Yes,
right?
so true.
So there has to be some type of communication. There has to be some level of two-way street when it comes to that.
Yeah. It's so true. Because if you are the Superman boss and you think that the company is built on it came from somewhere, and no one's ever told you that was not the way it was or is false, then yeah, you're right. Someone has to come and say, hey, or you have to have those surveys that say, you have a tendency to kind of do this or overly do this or not tell me that. Well, what makes a good boss then?
A good boss is definitely not somebody that makes everybody happy, right? Because and that's my thing is I'm not here, and I tell the entire team this, I'm not here to make you happy. I'm here to be fair.
But would they make work fun?
A good boss,
I say a good boss makes work fun.
Yeah, it gotta be a challenge, and at the same time, there has to be some type of enjoyment, right? Like if I'm coming here every single day, then I gotta enjoy something of it, right? Again, it's not about I hate my job,
right?
But I'm here just to get a paycheck. Like fuck that. You gotta, to me, go be happy.
It's true. A good boss is also supportive, right, and provides feedback. I think for me, the one time, I don't say the one time that I can remember, and that you brought up, actually, you brought to my remembrance, that I was called a bad boss, so to speak, or just like was called out on being a boss. I say it was because of feedback, in a sense. It's for me providing feedback. I will give all feedback. I have no problem doing that, right? It's my approach on giving that feedback.
It's that resting bitch face that you have. Yeah, it's terrible.
Thank you. Apparently, if and ladies, if my resting bitch face is terrible, then that means it's the bomb, right? It's the best thing ever.
So for those that don't know, and if you've ever worked with Daneyel has this thing with her eyes. When you understand, like she may sound like she's asking questions and being inquisitive, but her eyes and her face will tell you, I just told you this shit fucking last week. Why didn't you write it down? Why are you coming back to me? And I've had this conversation with Daneyel. I say, your patience for certain things are immaculate. But then when you have patience with employees, it's a little short.
These are people you pay, right? Like, if you pay people, then they should do what you tell them to do. So patience is a little shorter, and I'm not gonna lie. But as far as my face, yes, you're right. That's something that I'm working on, but it's very hard. Something your facial expressions is like, you don't even realize that you're making them until people point them out. Like, ooh, and then it's like, oh shit,
what did that mean?
Yeah. Oh, damn. It's like, oh, was it that bad? And I'm like, what do you mean is it that bad? It's like, well, your face said. And it's like, oh, that's just what my face said. Like,
and it was only twice. It was only twice you had two people say, well.
It was only twice.
Yeah, that's a lot. But it
was twice?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember.
Our first assistant and our HR person.
Oh, our first assistant didn't count. Yeah, no. She was like, count. I like you, but it's just hard.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's hard to do what the hell I say. That's all. That doesn't mean that's not. No,
it was feedback.
No, you're a great person. It's just hard. Yeah, no, it's hard to do what the hell I say on the excellent level. That's not a bad boss, but
it's feedback.
But it is feedback,
right?
But it's not.
But you have
bad.
to take, and that's the thing, right? Is because you asked me like, well, you don't know until you get the feedback. And yes, I'm not a bad boss, but I am demanding, right? Because you want things done at a high level. You want things, there's quality behind it, and some people just can't get with that nowadays, right? Back in the days, when I was coming up in the corporate world, I worked 6 days a week, sometimes 7, and 2 of those days was free to the corporation, right? And it wasn't like they was asking me. It was, this is just what it is. So for me, it was like there was a level of respect and there was a level of earned. Like I earned this, and I was real hardcore because of and then the military too. And then I brought that into now my own businesses, and people aren't coming up like that. So I can't have that same mentality. Like, this is the way I made it, so this is how you should be, kind of a mentality.
Is that how you've been called a bad boss?
So no. That's where sometimes I'd be like, okay, maybe I'm coming across as a bad boss because I have this level of expectation. So the level of expectation can also make me a bad boss because I'm thinking I have an old mentality of thinking, right? An old way of thinking. So then my EQ, right? Because that's a new thing, right? Everybody talks about EQ. So my EQ might be a little low or a little off. So I have to train myself, and then when you're a boss, there's different levels of bosses, right? So you have a boss that's an employee, and then you have bosses that are entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur, we still have to put ourselves through training and have to keep up with the times and what's going on out there. And we have to raise our hand and say, all right, I'm going to go sign up for this training to learn what the new is out there. And that's kind of where I've been over the last 6 months.
Yeah, and you've been a boss on both sides as in the corporate world, which as I have as well, but as in the corporate world and then also as an entrepreneur. But in the corporate world, do you recall times when they said you were not a great boss?
I was terrible.
Yeah.
Like when I came across, but that was because of ego, right? So that's the other part of being a bad boss is like how you said with the King Kong and the Superman, it's ego. And for me, I had a little sense of King Kong and had a little sense of Superman because I was like, I'm thinking about the bottom line and I've done all these different things. And then ego was my enemy, so I would come across and I'd be like, I would tell motherfuckers straight up.
Oh, I remember all the stories, or not all of them, but I remember plenty of them.
But there was
plenty of them.
Yeah, but those, and then when I look at those people, I also thought they were privileged. I was like, it's like, again, it goes back to my mindset of like, you have to earn your keep. Because the one thing about, I wasn't a bad boss to the people that reported directly to me. Everybody that reported directly to me, oh, he's fair. He's that guy. You would want to work for him. It was the people that indirectly reported to me that was like, oh, he's mean. He's that guy. He's this. He's that. And it's like, well, it's because you don't work directly for me. You're not being held accountable. So that was all the different things that I had to deal with in the corporate world.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Being a good boss matters, and caring about your people. And that's one thing is that you always care about people. And that just matters, especially in the corporate world. I remember times where people would say that you treated even people of color different, right? Like you held them, but it wasn't that. It's that you were always fair and you hold everyone to this high standard. And people of color would come in and be like, oh, you should be giving me the hookup is the problem, right? It would be like, you should be a little more lenient on me because, we have this in common, when it's like, no. You should want to work harder because we have this in common. And that's how we looked at it. And that's how we look at it. But it's not always received that same way.
1,000%. And it's, I forgot about that. And I'm glad you brought that back up because that actually hurt me as a boss when someone said, "Oh, because I'm black, you treat me a certain way," and I was like,
"You're harder on me."
Yeah, I was like, at first I didn't understand it, and then as you said, I was like, are you fucking serious? Like, it's like, yes, because you're black, because you're a woman, it is harder. So therefore, because of where I came from and because of where I know how hard it takes to get here, yo, not only am I hooking you up, I'm giving you the inside game.
Looking out for them. Yeah, so real.
So here's the game to get to wherever it is that you want to be in life. And you might not want to be where I'm at, but just in life, period. This is what it's all about.
Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, this is, we go through this with children. I'm telling you, it's the same exact way. Our children come to us, however the universe makes them come to us, as well as employees. They come to us, however, but we try our best to give them the game so that they're successful at what they do, and that's whatever they want to do. If they apply for the job, then it's that. We're thinking that's what you want to do, right? And we do the same for our children. Whether you take the game, though, that's different.
I mean, what they say, a horse you could
lead a horse to the water,
but you can't make them drink it. Yeah, and 1,000%, going back into the old days is like, I ain't gonna give you the fish. Let me teach you how to fish. Right? That's what it's all about.
Yeah, making you learn.
And that's a good leader. A good leader is not someone that's just gonna give you things. It's let me show you. Let me teach you the way.
Yeah, I love it. Good bosses are honest. They're self-aware. They're open-minded, and they're committed to their team's professional and personal development. Be a good leader.
1,000%.
I'm sorry, a good boss.
You can't don't let a bad leadership experience be the baggage that you take everywhere you go, right? Because if you had a bad boss over at that job, don't bring that over here and think that every boss is bad.
Oh, that's good.
That's just like relationships, it's baggage. You know what I mean?
That's so good.
So learn from good and bad bosses. And if you are a boss, if you don't know if you're a good or a bad boss, just fucking ask the question. Like ego is the enemy.
That's so true.
And that's a book. Like it's a book by Jeb Blount. So check that out. Ego is the Enemy. One of my favorite books, and it's super dope.
Yes. A boss creates fear. A leader confidence. A boss fixes blame. A leader corrects mistakes. A boss knows all. A leader asks questions. A boss makes work horrible. A leader makes work interesting. No one wants to be bossed around. Be a leader.
Damn, that's profound. And I got to correct it. That's Ego is the Enemy is by Ryan Holiday.
Oh, thank you.
Not Jeb. Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday, one of my favorite authors. I fucked that up, but
great job for fixing it.
But Jeb Blount is another author of mine. So either one of Jeb or Ryan, check
them out.
Yeah. This is Lyfe and Shyt.
Lyfe and Shyt. Love you.
I love you. Do us a favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Leave a review. Let us know what your thoughts are. That's the only way that this show is going to be successful. And we appreciate you. Talk with you next time.